So Brett, off the back of your much talked about performances at last year's C2C festival, you began a run of European dates about a fortnight ago in Cologne. You played the final show there on Friday night in London at the O2 Shepherd's Bush Empire. I mean, I know you love to travel. How have these shows been?
It's been one of the best touring experiences I've ever had. I've been here almost a month now. The connection with the crowds and the passion that I've seen on this and really has also brought an energy level of me out that I hadn't felt in a while, and also my band. So it's just been a very special experience.
I mean, you toured over here back in 2016. I even came to your show at the Academy in Dublin. Do you have any special memories from that run that stand out? And tell me about your first trip over here, what your sort of first reaction was about the sort of fanatical love of country from the fans.
That show in particular was so special, and I can't remember what night of the week it was, but I just remember it not mattering because it was just a big party, but everybody was just singing every word, and I never had that. I would have had that back home at shows, but like they were singing every word to every song, and I was blown away by that. And I remember having that high, that sense of a high on stage of just like, wow, this is incredible. And then I got off stage and I had some friends in town, and I just went out to celebrate. And a friend of mine, JJ Watt, who's a football player back home, he came and saw the show and everything, and we became buddies, and we went and ran around the town and everything and saw it, and it was so much fun. I'll always remember that show.
You were born and raised in the small town of Paris, Illinois, and tell us a bit about growing up there, how that shaped your musical influences, and when you discovered you had this beautiful voice.
I discovered from a young age I loved to sing. I was just really shy. At first, I would just kind of stare at the floor and sing, but I could belt out these songs, and people would just get really surprised at this. I was a really little kid. Now I'm 6'5". But I knew I wanted to do something with that, but I was just kind of scared. And then eventually started to get comfortable singing in front of people, and I grew to love it and just went and chased it, and eventually moved to Nashville and fought hard to get things going there. And then once it did, it started to roll into something special. And now here we are talking in years of success somehow, and I'm still trying to make it work. So it's a lot of fun.
I mean, that's the sort of short version of your life, but I know you were songwriting while you were attending Elmhurst College in Illinois, and you studied music business, which I'm sure has come in pretty handy.
Yeah. Well, I studied that. I didn't finish because I was going to have to go to school for more years, and I just wanted to get in. And so I started with music business major and was messing around with music, but I knew I needed to move to Nashville, so I transferred to a school outside of Nashville, and I started driving back and forth to Nashville about 45 minutes every day to this smaller town outside Nashville. And I'd write songs with everybody that I possibly could. And then eventually the first songs I was writing were not good, but eventually I started to figure out, how to do it. The record label started to hear my voice on these demos of these songs I was writing after artists were recording, and then I eventually got a record deal.
When you say like writing for other artists, I know people like Gary Allan, Trace Adkins, Jake Owen, Hank Williams Jr. have recorded songs written by yourself. I think because you are just such a great vocalist and a dynamic live performer, I think people often forget that, or maybe they're just not aware that you're just such a good songwriter and such a great producer. I mean, I know you've been involved in the writing of pretty much every song on all of your albums, aside of course from Glow, which is essentially a covers album. But does that frustrate you a wee bit that maybe people aren't aware of just how talented you are?
I like being humbled by that, I think, I hope people continue to start to be more aware of it as I put out more songs. And my next album is going to show a major growth of me as an artist and as a songwriter. And so I think you continue to try to win more people over, but also just hope that people love singing along and it puts a smile on their face, and whether they knew you wrote it or not, as long as I'm a voice for it, I think eventually they'll come around to figuring out they came from your heart and your soul, and I think they can at least feel that when they hear you sing it.
And at what stage is the next album at?
I'm trying to finish it right now. I've been working on it for a year, and now I'm trying to wrap it up, so it's been a crazy experience, and I'm ready to get it out there to the world, that's for sure.
I know you're a big fan of the classic singers like Sinatra and Ray Charles and Tony Bennett. When it comes to Christmas, you're kind of like country's version of Michael Bublé. Were you surprised at just how well the Glow album was received?
I grew up loving this music, and to record classics like this in the big band swing, and everybody kind of knew me as the country guy, and to go make a big band record that's completely different, and everybody didn't even blink once at it, and they just jumped on it, and that was so exciting for me because I was like, that's a huge part of my life and my music.
At the start of December, I know you embarked once again on the Glow Tour, which you began with a 2-night run at the Ryman in Nashville. Is it true that you actually tour with a 12-piece orchestra?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it's so crazy. It's so fun, though. I mean, I always dreamt to do that, and, have these powerful horn section blaring behind me every night, and just that feeling of sipping on some whiskey on stage and a nice tux, and it's kind of the element for me. I just love that feeling, and to see, multiple sold out nights at big venues singing these Christmas songs that I was singing when I was a little kid, and was very crazy to experience, and to have that big band was amazing.
That's one of the things I love most about you as an artist and your music is your willingness to constantly change things up. There's not many people would go from releasing a tender song like Raymond to something that completely catches us off guard, like Something I'm Good At. Do you enjoy that aspect as an artist, just sort of keeping your fans on their toes?
I want to be able to be diverse of an artist, to be able to do a lot of different things, and because music is a pull from a lot of different influences, and there's a lot of different parts of me as a writer and as a person, as a singer. So I think to be able to the thought of just doing the same thing over and over just makes me feel crazy, and I could never sleep at night, I think, doing that. So I think, I want to continue to give my fans something different every time, because I don't want, who wants to eat the same thing over and over every day? Who wants to have that same flavor all the time? And I got a lot of things to say and sing about. So I think it's exciting to continue to switch it up.
And you're somewhat of a thrill seeker. I believe to celebrate #1 hits in the past, you've done things like skydived and gone shark diving.
Yeah, I'm a guy that tries to push through my comfort zones, because usually I'm scared of all those kinds of things. But I was like, you get one shot at this life, and to achieve something like a #1 song is crazy. So I get a #1 song, and then I'll got to do something crazy to celebrate that, because when you're outside that comfort zone, when you're so scared of heights that you feel like you're going to die when you stand next to the edge of something, and then you actually jump out of it, then you're actually living, because the fear didn't win on you. And so that's kind of how I tried to approach it. And shark diving was the same. I was scared to swim around sharks, and the next thing you know, I'm get a #1, and we celebrate by going down deep and being surrounded by 8-foot sharks. It's crazy.
And over the years, you've toured with some of the biggest and the best in country: Taylor Swift, Luke Bryan, Blake Shelton, Darius Rucker. What have you learned from these people?
I think you learn something different from each one, which is the beautiful thing, and really prepared me to do my own headlining shows, because, it's kind of crazy how different each tour is. And starting out with Taylor Swift, and that was when she really blew up on the scene and got big. To see that from the beginning and kind of see where music can go, and to that level, and just crazy cool production things, to then go into Keith Urban and seeing the incredible musicianship that he has and the love that he has for it, and then touring with somebody like Blake Shelton, who's just so much fun and never worried about a thing, and just enjoying it and being himself day in, day out. You just learn all these things from these people, and it was so important for me to see all that, to be able to take little pieces of that into my headlining shows.
And just finally, I want to highlight how much you give back, which I think is quite important. The Brett Eldredge Family Foundation supports paediatric cancer research and children affected by cancer. Tell me why you decided to establish that and why it's so important to you.
When I first started music, I said I would, at some point, I want to give back in a major way. And then once, I started to get known in the limelight some, and I started to get all the success, so you start to change of what do you want to be known for, or what I want to look back and say I was able to do, which is, help others through music and help others in any way I can to have a good shot at life. I've seen a lot of sick kids and sang in a lot of children's hospitals and all over the place, and it just broke my heart to see that, and to be able to have, the opportunity to be in front of a lot of people. That's the stuff that becomes more important than anything. And so that's why, and I wanted to have something to share with my family together, because I was raised with amazing family, and all of us together to work on that and help other people out and raise money. And you start to realize the more important things in life, and those are the things that are important to me.
Brett, thank you so much for giving me some of your time. Continued success, and hopefully we'll see you back on the stage in Ireland, north or south, sometime soon.
Would love to. Thank you, my friend.